Hello again from Explosive Edge Athletics here in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. My name is Sean Mishka and I'm Athletic Performance Director here at Explosive Edge. What I want to do is talk to you today a little bit about some of the different testing protocols that we have to achieve different performance parameters and assess different performance parameters in some of our athletes. If you remember back to last month and some of the testing things that we talked about, today is going to be an extension of that. I'm going to show you a couple different measures of vertical jump. Okay, the vertical jump is obviously something that's seen in all sports from every level, but it can also be a tremendous predictor of athletic performance prowess. And that's what we utilize it for here at Explosive Edge. We analyze different ends of our training objectives in regards to different vertical jump tests, and we can do that very, very easily, and we can then obviously also progress and see how the athlete is progressing from point A to point B, what have you. Okay, when we look at training for athletic performance, we know that we have three fundamental objectives. The first one is to develop concentric power production capabilities. That's fairly obvious when we look at athletic performance. The second one is we need to develop more eccentric strength needed to tolerate more extreme power absorption during landings, running, cutting, etc. The third one is reactive ability, or the reactive strength needed to rapidly recoil yourself in a positive subsequent concentric contractions after an eccentric landing or eccentric contraction for that matter. But what we're going to do is show you two simple tests with the vertical jump. I'm going to have Jason come in and show us a number of different things. He's going to be my little guinea pig here today. But this is something that we test with all of our athletes. Jason is warmed up, but he's going to first off do a pause vertical jump. That pause vertical jump is something that's seen in sports, obviously, even though in sports where force might be initiated from a static position, this is the one that's going to carry over to that more than others. Okay? So what he's going to do is he's going to assume a position that's where he feels most powerful or where he feels capable of delivering the most amount of power and jumping as high as possible. Okay? Depending on the athlete, it's probably going to be anywhere from 90 to 110 degrees at the knee joint angle. So he's going to do that. We would typically do this with our jump mat. We can do it with a vertec, but then we also do it with the myo test that we showed you last time. So we hook this up around with the belt, and it can give us a number of different things that I'll talk about later as well. But I just want to show you the actual test protocol, and then you can utilize any different testing measure that you would like. So he's going to assume this position. I will count to 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're looking for him to stick that position. He'll stand up. It's going to be single response type efforts here. Okay, so I'm going to give him a chance to reset himself and kind of shake it out. We're going to do a set of 3 here. 1, 2, 3. Good. Shake it out one more time. One, two, 3. Good. Excellent. Shake it out. So what we're determining there from Jason's position and what we would get from a number, whether it be a vertec, jump mat, myo test, etc., is we're getting pure concentric power. Okay? But again, remember that a lot of sports, force is initiated from this position alone, whether it be a volleyball libero, maybe a football player who's a running back or a defensive back or a linebacker or what have you. Okay? But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have him come in and show us a counter-movement vertical jump. This is something that's usually done in testing combines and different testing protocols at every level. Okay? What the counter-movement jump does is it brings in the stretch shortening cycle, the stretch reflex, as well as the mechanical model and the elasticity and the elastic strength of the series elastic component. What we're going to do is try to assess what his difference here is between his counter movement and his pause. It's what we refer to or what the research refers to as eccentric utilization ratio, which I'll hit on in a bit here as well. So what he's going to do is now let his body have a preparatory counter movement before he explodes upward as high as possible again. Okay? Keep in mind that the faster we go down, the faster we go back up. But what I want to do as a coach and a trainer is to assess where his eccentric ability is at in order to stabilize force quickly and then rapidly return back into a concentric movement. Good. Shake it out. We're also going to do a set of 3 here as well so we can get a good indication of exactly where his strength is at and where his power is at each given movement. Good. Shake it out. And again, as a coach, I'm not just looking at that number. I'm also looking at his speed on his downward motion stabilized force and how well he can land after he reaches that top position. Good. Shake it up. So now what we would get from those simple numbers is we can see what his difference is, between his eccentric ability as well as his pause or his concentric ability. Okay, that doesn't hit on the reactive side, which we will go into next month. But that eccentric utilization ratio is something that we can give that difference in the numbers and then test and see what his sport needs are. Okay, for example, if we take the sport of volleyball and we have a libero who has to move, or a defensive specialist who has to move out of that position that he had in that pause, then we can want to train that capabilities a little bit more. If it's an outside hitter who's going to have the use of the eccentric side of things, the stretch shortening cycle, and has a run-up or an approach, we have to take more of a focus in on that. So we can also assess not only what the sport demands are from a sport specificity standpoint, but also what his individual strengths and weaknesses are. And that's something that I feel like a lot of practitioners don't often do. They only see the sport-specific side and don't see the actual individual. Because if we were to take Jason, I would guess that his pause as well as his counter, based on his old training and seeing those numbers, that they're usually fairly equal. So what I know then is that he needs a little bit more from an eccentric side. We need to take more of an emphasis on dynamic movement and less of an emphasis on concentric power. The kicker of that is that the majority of athletes that walk through our door, because of, again, my opinion in regards to the focuses that we take in the United States with power production or power development, is that eccentric or that landing and absorption side of things just isn't taken, doesn't have enough emphasis in our training plans. So usually those two numbers are fairly equal. If we can get that to be greater, the eccentric side of it to be greater with the counter movement, which is exactly what should happen, we'll be less susceptible to injury, those so-called non-contact injuries at the hips, hamstrings, ACLs, MCLs, high ankle sprains, those types of things, but we also become much more efficient and therefore much more athletic. From Explosive Edge Athletics, this is our newsletter for May, but we'll see you again next month. We appreciate you guys coming by and watching, and we'll talk to you soon.